Hello everyone, welcome back to more NASCAR Thunder 2004 modding. Today I have a big update for you guys. We have the point systems customization. So we can customize the regular driver points, we can customize the manufacturer points. We cannot change lap sled and most lap sled, sadly. I haven't found where that data is, but I have a way to make that not really affect things too badly. And we also have a way to update the points for playoffs, for the chase for the cup, depending on what sort of format you want to use. You can even do some custom formats. You can manually enter data if you'd rather do something completely different. It's completely up to you how you want to use it. That's what I try to always do with these tools. I try to keep them freeform enough that you can use them how you want and come up with your own systems. But I also try to incorporate the real life point system so that if you don't want to customize it, you can play what reality has very quickly and easily. So what you're going to do is you're going to load up the mod master and you're going to load your core pack that is associated with whichever season you're currently in. You click finalize pack. After it loads, you're going to be taken to a new screen. It is the points adjustment tab. If you're just continuing a regular season and it's not the cutoff point for playoffs, it's not the time for that, then you can go ahead and ignore this screen and move on. One thing you want to set on the screen when you're just doing a regular playthrough is which point system you want to use. That's over on the right. You just select from the drop down which point system you want and then go ahead and click load, and that will save. If you hit save core pack, that will save with the core pack as well, so you can utilize that year's point system as you see fit. I also have a custom point system that I just made up. It's one that I like. You guys can easily make your own. I'll cover that later in the video. When it comes to updating your points for the playoffs in your existing save file, you're going to have to first hit load memory card, then navigate to where you have your memory card file. Go ahead and hit open on that. Then you'll have a drop down here, and this might take a little messing around to figure out which slot is which save. I try to just save out to a new memory card and make a backup. That's just me personally, so that you don't lose any data. If something goes wrong, you have a backup. So from that drop down, when you select a save and you hit load data, that should give you an idea whether you have the correct save or not. If all the driver names appear the way they should for the pack that you're using, and the points are what you thought they were in the game, then everything's good. At the top left, you'll see a target in-game year. It's important to set this to whatever year your current season or career mode is in, because the stats we're adjusting are linked to that year in the data. That's how I determine what values to change. When you set this, you go ahead and hit load data, and you can change the year and hit load data again until you're certain you have the correct year. If nothing shows up in the table, then you've gone too far. It's a very easy way to tell which season you're in if you don't remember offhand. Once you've loaded data, make sure that you have the checkbox for update points in PNATCH file if you want to apply the new points. Otherwise, if you just wanted to look at it in this editor, then go ahead and uncheck that. Now there's a drop down here next to that checkbox that is for applying a preset point system. Now you can entirely go ahead and into this points override column and type values in manually if you wanted to, and enter whatever you want the points to be for that driver. You can go ahead and enter all those things manually, and they will apply as long as you enter a positive number value, which I think I restricted the input to. Then that'll apply on the back end when you go ahead and create your PNATCH file later. But if you want to use the preset, just go ahead and click the drop down next to apply preset button, and you can select from one of many presets that I've made. NASCAR has gone through a lot of different variations of their playoff system, so this was a bit complex for me to implement, but I do have it pretty well implemented. I'll show you guys how to make your own custom playoff system later. Now, you could always, if you come up with your own system, you could always just enter the points manually in the points override column, so you don't have to be limited by the presets. And it's possible that there may be some things that are a little funky with the presets and stuff you may have to do a little more manually. We'll cover a couple of those things later. But if you're just entering the playoffs, you should be able to click the preset for the season you want in the drop down, then go ahead and click apply preset, and you'll see the points override column will update, and you'll see the seed position column will fill out with what position in points everyone is after that update. Once you've applied the preset, the only thing you have to do is at least export the PNATCH file. You don't have to re-export textures. There's no real need to at this stage, other than if you had a different mod loaded, a different texture pack loaded, or none at all, then you might want to re-export them. After you've exported your new PNATCH, you're going to load the game up as per normal. And again, uncheck cheats on the loading screen. Then once you're past loading and it says press start, that's when you want to re-enable the cheats so that you don't get stuck on the loading screen potentially. Go ahead to career mode and load up your career save. And if you go to the standings right now, you'll notice that our new points are implemented as we expect. Everything should be in order here. Now, the next step is very important. You do not want to just go ahead and go into a race. Right now, their points with the cheat codes are locked in to their new values. So if you run a race, the drivers in the playoffs and the drivers that have new point values assigned are not going to change in points. So you want to make sure you manually create a save. You can overwrite your existing save. Again, I recommend doing a separate save just to be safe. You can name it whatever you want to name it here. Once you have created your new save, you're going to want to relaunch the Mod Master tool and go through your steps for the next race, applying whatever race stats you want, stuff like that. But after you get to the points adjustment page, you don't want to load your memory card, you don't want to do any of that. You just want to go through as if you're doing a normal race. Then on your finalize tab, you should only have to generate the PNATCH file. Again, textures or paints are optional. Then relaunch your game or reset it if you still have it open. Again, make sure you uncheck the cheats until after you've loaded. Then go ahead and re-enable the cheats. Load up that career save, the new one you just made. And the points, you could double check it just to make sure everything worked as expected, but the points should still be the new points that we updated. As you can see here, I'll simulate the next race and you can see the new point system I have in effect, and you can see that all of the drivers gained the points that they earned for that race. So everything seems to be working as normal for the rest of the season here. So if I'm doing the regular 10 race chase, I could just keep racing through the rest of the season. If you're doing the multiple round playoff system, then you're going to need to do a couple more steps, and I'm going to cover those in a moment. So you can go back into the Mod Master tool. You're going to load up your memory card after you've done, say, the third race of the playoff system, and it's the end of that round. So we're going to say the start of round 2 is what we want to apply, and I want to apply the adjusted. I'll explain the adjusted versus the regular later in the video, but for now, just know that the system I'm going with is the adjusted one. So I'm going to hit apply preset, and it's going to pick these out probably incorrectly. So let's say that Greg Biffle won a race. I know it doesn't say any wins there, but let's say Greg Biffle won a race in that round. Right now, there's no good way to tell who has won a race in this round. I know there is a way to get that data out of the memory card, but it would have been a lot of extra code to get this to automate fully versus making a small change manually. So I'd rather leave it a little manually. So what you want to do is when you load this data, so let's say someone who is way out, let's say Michael Waltrip won a race. And I know it doesn't say he won a race, but let's say Michael Waltrip won a race. So maybe he's going to be a higher seed. And Sterling Marlin's way out. Maybe he's also a seed. We'll flip those. So you want to enter what seed position they are for the next round in here manually. If you enter them manually, then when you hit apply preset, it'll go ahead and put those drivers in. So you see Kenseth and Mayfield got in on points. They have more points here. Marlin and Waltrip advanced because of their wins. Even though they were outside of the top 12 prior to the preset applying, they actually got in on virtue of their wins by me entering a seed position for them. So you can entirely, when you load the data, you could go ahead and enter seed positions for people and it'll put them into that section even though they're not supposed to be maybe. But you're supposed to put the seed position in for drivers that won in that 3-race round, because there isn't a good way for me to tell that easily. After you've entered those, so I have my next round, I have my new 12 positions here. You may want to update the points override here. There is one element that I could not automate, and that's if you accumulate wins. Some of the playoff formats, as you win during the playoffs, it gives you more bonus points for the next rounds. And I don't have a good way to automate that. Again, I can't tell what points I've already given them bonuses for, or what wins I've already given them bonuses for earlier versus what wins are new. So you'll have to note that. You'll have to enter those manually a little bit. I know that's a little bit of a pain, but honestly, the fact that we can do this at all, I think makes it worth it. So once you've done all that, once you've made your adjustments, so, let's say I want Waltrip to have 1550, I want Marlin to have 1550. Let's actually make that 151510. There we go. So then you just go to your finalize tab and you generate your PNATCH again, and you do the same steps you did last time to apply the initial round. You're just going to do the same thing of going in the game, loading up career mode, saving it out as a new name if you want, or overwriting your existing save, exiting out of the game, reload the mod master, don't load your memory card data, don't do any of this stuff, or just uncheck this, and then go ahead and finalize and generate PNATCH again. Honestly, the unchecking is probably the quickest way, because you wouldn't even have to close this application, you could just leave it open. I know that sounds complex when I summarize it, but that's why I explained it a little more detail earlier. Just to explain customizing the points, so there's two types of new folders here under your mod master NTO4 data. One of them is the points. This is your regular point standings for the season. So you can go ahead and create these files. They're CSVs, comma separated values. And the reason I made the adjusted ones is we cannot change. I know they're here. I don't have a way to implement them yet, but I have them here just in case. We cannot change how many points you get for leading a lap and how many points you get for leading most laps in a race. So that said, all the point systems 2011 onward, where you're getting 40-something points for the win, 5-point difference is like 5 positions. So the person who leads a lap, who finishes third, will get the same amount of points as the winner, or who finishes 10th, will get the same amount of points as 5th, which is insane. If 10th place leads the most laps, they're going to get more points than second place. So we don't want that big of a bonus. Unfortunately, again, I can't change these values. So what I did was I mathed out the adjusted. I just took the existing points and multiplied them by 5. This essentially makes leading a lap and leading most laps worth 1 point each. This is the equivalent of it. Because I can't change these values, I have to change these ones to be equivalent. So that's the point of the adjusted ones, but all you have to do for this is fill out up to 43 positions. Just take one of these existing ones, copy and paste it, and change the values to what you want for manufacturer points and driver's points. Now obviously manufacturer points, a lot of the mods use the same car for everyone, so, or multiple, like, I think Toyotas are on Chevys. Technically speaking, they weren't put on the Pontiac or something different. So I realize manufacturer points are kind of a little out of the realm of what we care about as far as the game automatically tracking. You could easily manually track it. Well, maybe not easily, but you could manually track it too if you wanted throughout your gameplay. So unfortunately, that's not something that's going to be easy, gonna much matter. But it's here if you want to change it. I figured I'd map the data while I was mapping this because it exists in the same area. The other folder is the playoffs folder, and I know this is going to look cluttered, but this is all of the basic playoff formats and all the different rounds for each one. So I'm going to open one of these up and explain down the list here. This is a little bit complex, so bear with me on this. It's a little bit tough to follow. I'm going to actually start at the bottom. I have bonus points by rank. So their rank at the end of that regular season, their rank going into this update, that's what this column is, this column B. Whatever they have here for points versus position. So if the points leader, if the regular season champion gets bonus points for the playoffs, you'd put that right here. And if you want a reward for different positions, or have like a full race payout, for example, so maybe you want it to be the equivalent of a regular single race amount, Now, this goes down to 60. I didn't think anyone would go beyond that, but it goes down to the 60th rank. It shouldn't be necessary to really worry about beyond that, or even that far, probably. The seed position. So after you apply it, when they get reordered and reseeded, your new seed position will get their bonus points. Alright, so let's go back to the top. At the top, we have minimum cars to get in on points. And I realize this one's a little funky. So for seasons where we didn't have people getting in on wins, this is what that value is for. Actually, I'm not 100% sure it's super necessary with the way I coded it, but I have it there just for reference. It's still good to know. So in the 2004 Cup season, 10 drivers in on points, 10 drivers get in total. There's no winning to get in. Minimum cars to get in on wins, this is 0. This is something for 2011 onward. Also, this is excluding a 2004 to 2006 rule, which I'll get to. Okay, minimum cars to get in on wins. This is 2011 plus. So this one, for example, in the newer systems are, once it loads, you'll see I have that set to 16. 16 drivers get in on wins, and I have nobody getting in on points. And I know that sounds backwards, but what happens is if there are less winners than there are spots, so if the amount of people that have wins is less than the total cars getting in, then the way I coded it, it defaults to points for the non-winners. So it's exactly the format we have in real life right now. And if you want to make your own format, that's what'll happen if there aren't enough unique winners. Minimum position for cars to get in on wins. That could be left at 0. There's this rule really, it was used 2011 to 2013, and essentially they had, I'll show you that one. 11 to 13 was weird. So we had it where 10 people will get in on points, 12 people will get in total. 2 extra spots, people would get in on wins so it'd be top 10 in points, and then 11th through 20th would get in on wins if they had any wins out of any drivers 11th through 20th. If 11th through 20th didn't have anybody with wins, then it would go back to points anyway to fill out the 12 driver field. It was extra complex. It was kind of silly, but that's just why that rule is there. So this one most people are going to ignore, especially with the newer systems, but it's there. I have it implemented. It should work okay. So we also have the win to get in format. This is just a true or false. Just type in all caps true or false in this, whether you win to get into playoffs. Technically, I think the way I coded it, this only matters for one weird combination of rules, but it's there. Just use it as is, then you'll be safe. Maximum cars to get in if within range. So in 2004 to 2006, there were 10 drivers that get in on points. That's why this says minimum. 10 drivers get in on points, and then anyone else who's outside of the top 10 in points, if they're within 400 points of the leader, they'd get into the playoffs. Now, I realize that never happened. It's extremely unlikely to happen with the regular point system back then, because it's 200 points for winning a race almost. So, it was so unlikely to happen. Basically, you'd have to have like the top 12 in points within, or more than 10 cars within 400 points of each other, which is just insane. Not going to happen. But it was a rule they had just in case there was a crazy season where a lot of people were all about the same level. So this one, I expect you guys not to use it much. Just zero them out if you're not using it. It's just a 2004 to 2006 rule that never actually made a difference. The next one's very important here. This is the base point reset. So how many points they set the drivers to at the beginning of that round. So again, I have them, the multiple rounds, what they reset to matters. I'll show you one of the round 2s here in a little bit. Minimum seed position where the bonus points are excluded. This is a 2011 to 2013 rule. So I'm going to open up 2011 here. So what happened is they had bonus points. This is again very specific. There's bonus points per win when you start the playoffs, the chase, whichever you want to call it. And that only applied to the top 10. If you got into the playoffs outside of the top 10, then you did not get these bonus points. So this line is literally just because of that one little asterisk on there, that the last 2 cars that get in do not get bonus points for their wins. So then the next 2 of these I added just for fun. If you want to make a custom system, it might be a fun way to implement it. And it was pretty easy to code, so I thought I'd just add them in for fun. But we have bonus points per win. That one is obviously used in various seasons. You can see in 2017 plus up to today, there's 5 bonus points per win for the playoff points. There's also regular season points here, as you can see. There used to not be. I also, like I said, I added them for top 5 and top 10. If you want to do something silly where you get 5 points per win, 2 points per top 5, and 1 point per top 10. So basically a win would be worth 8 points total because it counts as top 5 and top 10 as well. If you wanted to do something like that to reward consistency and winning, whatever, you could do a system like that if you want to, and it should work. Now I'm going to show you a second round just to show you where it varies a little bit here, and this is an adjusted one. So again, the adjusted points is because of the laps led versus most laps led, and how that's 5 points and I can't change it. So the base point reset, I also had to multiply by 5. The points per win, I also had to multiply by 5. So every bonus and every extra bit that they get with a regular point system, the adjusted one is 5 times that value to make it equal or equivalent. So you can see the max positions for cars to get in. This is the cutoff. Oh, I don't think I explained this one. I think I skipped it. This is the cutoff for where they have to be in points to be able to advance into the next round in this case, or the initial round. So you have to be top 30 in points, unless you get a waiver, which we're not going to get into. But you have to be top 30 in points to make the playoffs in real life on a normal season. I think they just got rid of that rule this year. The further rounds, obviously, you only want the top 16 to be eligible to advance. Granted, this shouldn't really be an issue anyway because of the points gap, because of the points reset for each round, but it's coded there. It's there if you want to use it. It's mainly there for the first round where you want everybody to be top 30 in points. So if somebody gets a win from outside the top 30 in points, then they won't get into the playoffs at all. And that should do it. If you want to make new files of these, you could copy and paste one of these, rename it whatever you want it to show up as in the editor, in the mod tool. And you can change these points. You could give bonuses for other things if you'd like. And as always, you could do it manually. Again, you can type in the points adjustment value you want to give certain drivers. You could give penalties out too. That's another thing I didn't even think about. If you, for some reason, wanted to create some extra lore that, you see a driver take somebody else out, somebody LePages the field, and you want to penalize them 100 points for it, you could go right ahead and subtract 100 points from their total and just type in that new value and apply it. So if you could, for lore reasons, take points away as well. That's going to do it for this video, guys. The next big update we have is probably the last of the big updates, is qualifying times being adjusted to more reasonable values so you don't qualify on pole for some random races in your rookie season in career mode. But other than that, I don't think there's anything too big coming down the pike. I think we're starting to near the end of what can be modded here as far as what I've discovered so far. So don't expect too much on the big end of things, but we are still working on packs. Myself and many other painters are working on cars for other packs, so we're still wanting to get all of the seasons from, in my thought, 1990 all the way to present day. So there's still plenty of work to be done regardless, but as far as the mod tool itself and the features on it, I think we're nearing the end of these sort of updates. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.